You're listening to WLPN LP Chicago, 105.5 FM, Lumpen Radio, Bridgeport. It's September 5th, 2019, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
Hello, and welcome to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, coming to you, as always, from Studio B of the Co-Prosperity Sphere. A little late, which isn't completely abnormal.
On Brewers time.
But it's usually not my fault, and it is my fault this time. It is my fault that I agreed to pick up one of the guests, is what I should say. But no, Bears traffic, all that stuff. So sorry we're getting a little bit of a late start, but thank you for everyone who came. Thanks to Jamie Trecker, the fearless producer, as well as Logan Bay, the fearless leader. Notice he's more important than the fearless producer, more integral to the runnings of Lumpen Radio. I don't want Jamie to ever forget that, but I want to thank all of them, nonetheless, for having us on yet again, and I want to thank all you guys for listening, for tuning in to 105.5 FM on your radio dials, or tuning in on your podcast app. I think that probably makes sense somehow. So, yeah, thank you guys. And if you did tune in on your podcast app, thank you very much. And if you want to leave a review, that would be awesome. If you want to write us a letter or anything like that, that would be great too. But word of mouth is also very much appreciated. But no matter how you listen, thank you guys. It's very nice of you to continue listening. Or if it's your first time, thanks for tuning in for the first time. Let me tell you what this show is all about. Essentially, this show is trying to recreate one of, I think, the best things about being in the beer industry, which is having some beers and sitting around with a group of people who are all passionate about beer, maybe come at things from slightly different angles. Maybe we have some people who are brewers, or some people who work on the supply side, some people who are sell beer, some people who write about beer, facilitate beer, all beer being sold, all sorts of stuff, or just love beer and drink beer.
Pastry royalty,
perhaps.
That can only be one.
Swine, yeah. Anything. So
Swine?
Well, not beer swine, but other fluid swines.
Pigs.
Yeah, pigs.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're one and the same. Sometimes the pastry king, whatever.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later. Let that come up organically. That was a little forced.
Probably in the comments.
Yes.
Reader mail or
fan
mail, I mean.
Yeah.
So
we have
letters.
We have a letter. We have several electronic letters, but we have a real letter. So anyway, I wanted to. That's what the show's supposed to be. A bunch of people sitting around having beers and talking about things that relate to seltzer. I mean beer. And
No, we're going a whole show.
Yeah,
We're not going to talk.
which
about
is a
seltzer.
shame, because this is the most seltzer-heavy audience feedback I've ever had. But if you want to not have any, if you don't want to talk about seltzer, that's fine. It's going to be very hard because there's some we won't talk about any direct seltzer topics. How about that?
We'll see if we can do it.
We'll see if we can do it. I may run out of topics.
We're already off track.
Yeah, we're already off
We've
track.
already said it 14 times.
Yeah.
So let me introduce my guests. But before I do, I have to remind everyone that the comments of my guests are their own and not the opinions of... Well, I should say the comments are obviously their own, but the opinions are also their own and not the opinions of Lumpen Radio or any other entity that these people, this royalty may or may not be associated with. So with that, I will introduce the guests, starting going in order of seniority, as I always do. You'd think the king would go first. You're not even the senior most king, my friend, on this show. Yeah. So you
He's,
got a ways to go.
He's more of a knight, but you know. I mean,
I'm thinking of King Kona.
oh yeah, geez, sorry.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
He owns islands.
Yeah, exactly.
Lose your job if you usurp that.
Yeah.
No.
But Mr. Strong Mike
Hello.
Schallau of Iswas Brewing, back again. How's it been?
Good. Just finished labeling the second batch of Iswas beer about 5 minutes ago, and then drove up here really fast.
Nice.
Yeah, always Zag. It's a hop accented saison.
Very cool.
Nice segue promo there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's good.
There will be a keg on draft at Beer Temple on
Oh,
Saturday.
you don't
the
say.
Wow.
13th?
Double promo. Nice.
14th, right?
14th, whatever that
Yeah.
Saturday is. So there'll be a keg on draft, be bottles for sale.
Yes.
Call it Quiet Fest instead of Riot Fest. You can have a little respite from the Blink-182 reunion.
Is that really happening?
Yeah.
I thought one of them got burned up in a plane crash or something.
No, he was in a plane crash with DJ AM, obviously, but
Yeah.
he survived. He was fine. DJ AM, not so much.
Oh, really?
I think so. I wouldn't. I'm not the foremost expert on celebrity plane crashes, though.
But you are the foremost expert on Blink-182.
I'm up there, you know? I'm really up there. I learned how to play all those songs when I was learning to play the guitar. when I was 12.
So the one guy lived, but since you only know 182, you don't know if the other guy lived or died.
I could care less.
DJ AM.
Yeah,
Okay.
don't care.
Don't care.
There's a lot of small
Cold
plane
hearted.
crashes
Not-
out there.
He's not in Blink-182. He doesn't have zombie dust. Don't care.
Yeah. Well, what else is there
He
really?
might be a Dust Brother.
You gotta have your priorities.
You never know.
straight, you know.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Could have been a Dust Brother.
I like to think he would have been, but
Yeah.
you know,
He would
now
have
you
been.
never know.
Right.
Except I think he was sober. So
Straight edge.
you can't really. Well, that's That's
That is a
after-
problem.
After doing too many zombie dusts, you have to.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
Um,
DJ AM. Rest
yes.
In peace.
Hey,
R.I.P.
Jamie,
sorry, I was so
any
cold
luck
to
on the
you.
letter? No. See, guys, this is why I say, well, I say don't send it to Ed, and then it'll end up getting to me. But I think really the letters need to go to the Beer Temple. Let's just be
Yeah.
real. They need to go to 3173 North Elston Avenue. That's ELSTON. That's the Beer Temple. And I will get them, I promise.
It was a really nice letter too, Chris. It smelled nice, and I think it may have had some things, about you personally in the letter. So I'm disappointed I cannot put my hands on the letter at this moment.
Was it about Seltzer?
I think it might have been about Seltzer.
I burn it.
Burn before reading.
Yeah. This feels like a Seltzer letter. It's in a slim can.
Yeah, yeah, it's slim, it's white.
Have you talked about other malt beverages like Zima in relation to all this seltzer?
We'll get to that. First, we're introducing the guests in order of
All right.
seniority.
I'm just wondering
I've
if
had
that
so many
has come up.
And
Zima
yet.
you are not. You're the second
I'm sorry.
most senior member of the panel. Is also royalty. Now that I think about it, Sir William Charles Moore. How are you?
Doing well.
What's
Good
new,
evening.
man?
It's business as usual for me, I'd say. So, not
Over at Spiteful Brewing,
That's the one.
we had your founder on not too long ago. It's been a while since Jason was on.
Yeah, he told me about it. I'm not sure. Yeah, hopefully it went well. Didn't
Yeah.
I listened. He
Chance to-
was himself.
Yep. Sounds about right.
And he wanted to make fun of me about darts quite a bit at the beginning of the show, which I thought was interesting.
Did it work? He's terrible at darts, so that's why he wanted to make fun of you.
Yeah, I didn't really care whether he was good or not because I knew I was better than him. But I just thought it was interesting that's the first thing. That's what he wanted to open with was talking to me about being bad at darts. But what's
Will,
up?
do you think everyone is terrible at darts? Aren't you quite proficient?
I'm
Dart player.
obviously terrible at darts. That is actually critical to being on the team. So
Yeah.
you have
Wait,
to,
what
you
is
have to
the
be
team?
terrible at darts in order to.
only
Oh, the spiteful
only
thing,
in
gotcha.
key moments.
That's right. You have to have the chokes bad, or as Brad said, this is my new favorite. My new favorite darts term, as he said, on tilt.
Yeah, you're on tilt.
poker
That's right.
term.
Just, but it makes so much sense in darts. You're just like, yep, you've ceased to function. So
Yeah.
got
that-
a little rattled. Can't play anymore.
Is that
So,
that's a function of emotionality, or is that a function of inebriation more so?
no, it's
Emotion.
It's definitely the emotion,
And it
It's-
sounds
It's
insane.
the pressure, but it's true.
It's a.
the pressure.
We're not going to
It's the
get into
pressure
it.
of this
Let's just leave it at.
So the
this
most important
non-competitive
thing
Darts is a
you have
mental
to-
game.
You have to be able to consistently buckle under the pressure. That's what it takes to be on the team.
Yeah.
What
If you
pressure?
go to sleep and when you wake up,
Gotta
your
win.
bed sheets are clean, there's no place for you on our team.
That's right.
They need to be fully soiled.
This is-
Then come talk to us.
This is
then
the
come talk to
weirdest dart conversation
Yeah.
I've ever been a part of.
So a little diverted there, but
But anyway, things are good for you, Will.
yeah, I mean,
You're in your home state of Colorado, or is it Colorado for you guys?
I don't do that. No,
Okay.
that doesn't sound right
You're
to me.
Colorado.
Yeah.
Got it. And did you have anything good while you were out there?
I had some foraged currants. That was
Okay,
good.
that was good.
That was good.
Out of hand.
No, so I was actually
Rustic.
a number of different things. I'm noticing that a lot of Colorado breweries are doing lager, just straight lager now, of different types.
Bierstadt,
Well-
most famously.
I have a whole house for it.
I was talking
Yeah.
about the more in the regional vein, which is interesting to me that all of them are, releasing lager, and a lot of them were good and drinkable. That's
That's
nice.
good.
So beer for people that like beer.
That's good. Beer that tastes like beer.
I mean, it's looks good to me. So
I know someone very well. I won't blow them up on by name here, but that has always been a descriptor of disinterest for them when drinking beer. There you go. That came back. All right. One of my headphones just went out.
Mine went
I
out.
literally
Mine went
just
out,
did it
actually.
like you did with a TV back in the day, a tube TV where you just banged it. That's literally what I just did to the console table. My headphones went out. I hit it with my knee, and it worked. It came back. I'm like the Fonz.
Very fond
Yeah.
of you.
So what you don't know is that the broadcast just shut down at the same time. So now we're talking to
It's all
nobody.
gonna be lost.
But,
Probably for the best.
Yeah. What I was going to say, I forget what I was going to say, but we were talking about foraging. You just went somewhere, Mike, and had some forage stuff. And I have not talked to you about it, except for just a tiny bit.
Yep.
But I want to hear, can you talk a little bit about it? Oh, should we introduce
It's not a
the
secret.
royalty
No,
here?
no, skip me.
Absolutely not.
Skip me. Yeah.
Skip
It's
you?
Tim.
It's not
Tim's
worth
here,
it.
guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Sorry, no.
Very
Tim
beta
Lang.
of you. I like it.
I don't care.
I don't need to be.
Yeah.
I don't deserve to be.
I'm just happy to be here. You know?
How are you, Tim Lang?
I'm just fine.
Head brewer of Mars Community Brewing
Yeah, and royalty.
and Royalty, the pastry king
A lot
of
of
Chicago.
royalty here today.
A lot of royalty. How are you?
Good. Just went up to Traverse City this weekend. Had a beautiful
Nice.
little quick trip up there, but
Is that
Good to,
possible since it takes like 15 hours to get there?
Yeah. No, it was only 5. Not bad. Beautiful drive too.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah. When bounced around there and checked out a few places and checked out the giant dunes there and Hop Lot Brewing, which is beautiful, nestled in the woods on beautiful M22.
Nice.
Just kind of stopped around and had a nice outdoor weekend.
Is that what the brewery? Is that what the beer M43 is named after? Is it
Yeah.
named after a road?
All the
Blue is
Michigan
mine.
roads up
Blue is
there are
mine.
M whatever. Yep. So
Sounds
there's
like a-
very
Got it.
very
Sounds like a
scenic,
gun.
beautiful, windy, hilly roads.
Got it.
Yep. A lot of bikes and yeah.
Now, Traverse City, is that in the Upper Peninsula?
I don't think so. I think it's like lower end of that. I can't really say for sure,
No, it's-
but it's like maybe the start of it. It's kind of mid.
I'm pretty sure it's on like a regular.
it's definitely on
It's-
regular Michigan.
regular
the
It's
northern-
just-
the
it's
northern
not-
part of regular Michigan.
Yeah.
Okay.
upper lower.
Upper lower. Yeah, there you go.
Upper lower. Got it. Kind of like in Delaware,
Yeah,
how they're slower lower.
I'm sure somebody would be
Sure.
pointing to a fingernail type of area.
Yeah, you
if
gotta
they're
hold your
from
hand
Michigan.
up.
You know, they're like,
I don't
oh,
do that.
Everyone from Michigan does that.
Everyone.
They're
True.
like, oh,
Everyone.
it's like right here. It's like, I don't care.
It's a good answer. It's a very good answer when somebody, like, you should also just
Trying to
let
share
them
something
get,
about their
It's like
lives.
a route conversation.
let them get
You just don't
two-thirds
need
of the way
to-
through the
yeah.
sentence and
Yeah.
just say, I don't care.
Yeah.
Great.
But anyway, tell me about your trip, if you don't mind, Mike.
Yeah. So I was in Vermont last.
Oh, did you see Fitz? Did you say hi to Fitz for me?
Yeah, I did. I saw him a
Yeah.
bunch of places. He told me he wasn't there, and then I just saw him.
And he would like run
everywhere.
Saw him
away.
every other hour.
It's just like he's like, I don't know who that is. I'm like, Fitz, I know it's you. And he's
Yeah.
holding 3 heady toppers.
handing 2 of them out.
and just walks into the woods and disappears.
Yeah.
And
It's like
hour
Field
later-
of Dreams.
yeah,
Just walks into the.
Fits of Dreams. Actually,
Yeah.
when I was at I went to Hill Farms. I was there for a wedding, but I went to Hill Farms because I hadn't been to Vermont since I was literally 1 year old, and I was like, I'm not going to go to Vermont and not go to Hill Farmstead.
Mm-hmm.
But I texted my parents, I'm like, this place is like the Field of Dreams for beer. The Field of Dreams is a big movie in my family. My dad's from Iowa, like loves
Right,
baseball.
right.
I've been to that Field of Dreams, but it's like it's the Field of Dreams for beer. They were like
Just cars coming up in a procession.
so many people, just like maybe 200 or 300 people probably. I'm sure this they literally hand you a pamphlet this weekend where it was like, this is a very busy weekend for us. We apologize for like the waits and the things that are gonna happen, but so like please be cool. Like it's essentially what, like when you get out of your car, there's a guy handing you a piece of paper that's just like, yeah, it's gonna be busy.
Oh, not abnormally busy, just normally busy.
No, abnormally busy.
Oh.
Because it was Labor Day weekend.
Oh, right.
So I was there
right,
on like
right.
Saturday of Labor Day weekend.
The last hurrah.
Got to see our mutual friend Mike Sardinia
Yes.
for about 1 second because he was
Yes.
working in the bottle shop and people were just buying
Everything.
mass quantities.
Yes.
I partook in that.
You know what they
Bought some beer,
say?
actually.
All the breweries, they have a saying about Fitz up there, and if it is Field of Dreams esque. It's if you can see through it, he won't come. I had to get that out. I was just gonna, as soon as I thought about it, I was gonna shoehorn it in at some point. So I'm glad you got to see Fitz. How were the beers, man? Did it live up to the hype?
You know,
What hype?
Yeah, what hype? So when I got there, I first had a grisette and a lager because at these days I hardly ever order things that are like hoppy, and so I was like, yeah, but you got to. Eventually, I was like, you got to have them, right? And I
Yeah,
took a
I'd say
sip of
so.
Edward, and I was like, oh my god,
Edward,
Like,
that's their pale ale
Yeah.
at Hill Farmstead, is one of the best beers in the country,
It's-
if not the world.
I
yeah.
had it. I remember having it at the first festival, the Shelton Brothers Festival. And it was like it was noticeable then. It was like 7 years ago, maybe the
Yeah.
first festival. But I had it now, and I was like, oh, this is the original version of what everyone's making a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of, where it's all.
It's so good.
It's so light. The mouthfeel was. I'm gonna geek out on it. But
You a mouthfeel whore?
Are you a flock boy?
am. I mean,
Flock boy.
for those beers. Yeah, it was transcendently different than other people's beer, and I like. In ways, usually you can like taste beers and be like, oh, I see what they're doing there. I go there.
Yeah.
But that was like, I have no idea how it feels like this.
And it's not because it's overly complicated and it's just so many different things coming together into this beautiful way. It's very simple in a lot of ways too. I think my favorite Hill Farm beers anyway.
Well, I think it is a lot of things coming together, but it's a lot of like really subtle things. It's like water chemistry, pitching rates, like timing and quality of the hops. Like it's just doing everything.
Rawaka.
Yeah.
If you're doing
I brought a Rawaka
if you're
beer,
doing
yeah.
it well, everyone
Citra.
thinks that it's simple, but it's in fact extraordinarily complex
Yeah.
to pull something that clean and neat off. It's got to be that. I definitely think it's a lot of things.
Up until that, like I had those, I was like, nah, this is fine. It's beautiful here. The beers are really well made. And then I had that, and I was like, oh, I get it now. I get why everyone's coming.
And Anna and Arthur are the same way in very different styles, I would say. But
Yeah.
I mean, those are just great farmhouse ales, and yeah, the guy they can brew some beer up
yeah,
there.
it was great.
And you had some Wunderkammer.
Yeah, I went to Parker Pie, which is like a
Yeah.
pizza restaurant around there, and they had bottles of Wunderkammer. They had one
Nice.
they had one that was on the menu that I can't quite remember what it was, but they didn't have that one. But I got one that was with foraged sumac, and it was just like the most perfect little
awesome.
beer. Like it was not overly tart. It was like refreshing. It was
Yeah.
complex and simple, and like all the things you want from that type of thing.
Yeah.
And it was clean which is weird to say for like a mixed culture beer with stuff that was pulled out of the woods, but it really was. It was like succinct. Like it did what it did, and then it did it perfectly, and then it just kind of dissipated in your mouth. It was,
That's cool.
and then later I was there for my friend's wedding, and they had their after party at a craft beer bar in Manchester, Vermont. And I was like, that was a couple sheets to the wind at that point, where like was waiting in line to order beer at the bar, and they had bottles of Wunderkammer. And I just like picked them up and took both of them and brought it because it was like a slashy for Chicago,
Yeah.
like to go and have them. And I was like, "Can you chill this one down?" And I just put the other one in my suit jacket pocket.
Yeah.
And I was like, brought it home. Like,
Oh, you were at a wedding, right?
yeah. So I was like, yeah. Well, why else would I be wearing a suit? I wear a suit 3 times. a
You're
year.
wearing a suit now.
Yeah, but
look
it's
really
a
good.
different thing. This is like a full tuxedo.
Right.
Yeah, I wear my formal wear for the radio show. No one really knows that, but every time it's a real whole ordeal.
Yeah. But it's not a black. You have a red tie on because it's not a formal form. It's not black tie
Right.
affair.
It's after Labor Day.
Yeah. Right.
I can't wear the white tuxedo. I also
True.
think people don't really get the behind the scenes after hour kind of version of this where I berate everyone else here for not wearing a tuxedo. Mm-hmm. It really has
Every time.
It really builds.
I like how you have the
camaraderie.
old fashioned like cummerbund thing that's its own thing, and when you get really angry, it
just-
rolls up.
Yeah,
It rolls up like
window,
like
windows that don't exist anymore.
yeah, like one of those things.
Yeah,
And you have to like push it back down and
Flatten
continue
it
your
out.
thought. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to, since this is such a visual medium, I like to have a lot of cues for how I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's good.
But yeah, I had a great time in Vermont. And
Good.
It lived up to the hype.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have any stuff other than Hill Farm from around there? Foam. Everyone's talking about how great foam is out there.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I only had a couple of, like a day to be up there. I stayed up in that area, and you got to drive everywhere. So I was like, I'm not really going to go touring.
So let's get some more beer. We're not going to be taking a station ID break, but why don't we go back to you, King, and any beers you've had lately that you've enjoyed, or any beers that you're looking forward to having?
We did a little release at the brewery with Second Shift. We did a apple fermented wine barrel fermented thing that we blended together, and did a little release there. So they brought a bunch of stuff and got to try their La Colina. It was really awesome. I think it was a foeder fermented saison, maybe. Anyway, wood fermented saison, very, very good. Just nice little tartness to it. I've been liking those kind of little tart saisons with the phenolics and stuff lately. Just kind of brightens everything up, and with or without hops, I really enjoy those.
Nice.
That was a really nice one.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How about you, Will?
Lots of lagers.
Lots of lagers.
Lots of lagers.
Lots of lagers.
I think
from-
Jahrhundert from Einger might be the world's greatest beer. It is
It's
so
exceptionally
It makes
good.
me just extremely upset every time I have it because it's just so perfectly done. But I don't have access to Hill
Now,
Farmstead.
personalized
So,
calls to
You do
action.
today, there's some in the cooler. But
Ooh, nice. Personalized calls to action are allowed. So the lager game at my bar right now is as strong as it's ever been. We have Eyinger Oktoberfest. We have unfiltered Einbecker Pils, which is amazing. And we have the Weichstefan 1516. And people,
draft.
there's all of that is on draft. And it's pretty amazing. We also have a mixed culture lager from Half Acre, if you want to start getting weird with the lagers we have on.
too.
Yeah, we have some really amazing. We have the best array of lagers I think we've ever had on, and arguably, I'm one of those might be one of the best lagers we've ever put on. I mean, but
And it's a hazy beer.
I don't know.
Everyone's drinking hazy beers.
It's true. But for the thing that I drank recently that was notable, I forgot. It's been a while since I've been on the show. I forgot about this. I was at the Great Taste. I think you know this story, Tim,
which great taste.
of the Midwest.
The Midwestern.
Yeah, not of Chicago. And I wasn't having,
Just a regular
miniature bites of ribs or whatever.
How did they get the pigs so small? Is what
I don't know. I mean, don't ask Tim. He's a huge pig.
Huge.
But what happened was I was went up there with Off Color, and I was going to help them pour. And it was
Sounds dangerous.
quickly apparent that I had to do like the last 2 hours of the fest, right? And it was becoming obvious that they, I wanted to control myself. I didn't want to have too much beer. I didn't want to be
You didn't want to
a
come
raging
walking on some railroad tracks. That
exactly.
Don't exist.
That was not inebriation.
That was a different kind of
Yes.
inebriation.
And something happened again. I was kind of bamboozled again. So
This sounds self-inflicted, by
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah.
no,
You
it
went to the
wasn't.
off-color
But
zone.
they gave me a ticket. That's I was pouring for them.
Okay.
So then they have these pourons, which
Not
if you
over
guys
the
don't know
board,
what those
dude.
are,
Uh-oh.
If you don't know what a pouron is, it's kind of like a pitcher for pouring wine or cider or anything liquid, really.
Straight into
that
your
puts it puts out a very thin bead of liquid, so
Nice
you can
stream.
drink it. Yeah, direct a stream that you can just slurp right up. And what happens is, so they always have it. It's like their thing that they do. It's very very
The
funny.
point of the pitcher is to drink it straight out of the pitcher.
Yeah.
That is
right
the
into your
point.
mouth.
It's not supposed to go into a glass.
Right.
It's literally made to be drank directly from the pitcher. So they asked me, "Do you want to do a Peroni?" Okay, fine. They pour it for me, and I drank till my mouth got full and I couldn't drink anymore.
Just to
And-
swallow.
It's probably like a
Yeah.
table beer or something, right?
Yes, exactly.
was
And then they're like,
like a
"Whoa,
light
that's a
cider?
lot." Yeah. So the guy who was pouring, the person will go unnamed, whose name is Kirk, said, "Oh, that's a lot." I was like, "Oh, really? That wasn't that much." He's like, "Here, do another one." I drank another one, and then there was a woman who says, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just saw that." And I looked and I said, "What?" And she said, "That's sake." And Kirk says, "Yeah, that's like 20% alcohol." And I realized that I had just done 16 to 20 ounces
Chris
of
Quinn,
20%
master
sake.
taster, has been drinking.
Yeah, for real.
Good palate.
Uh-oh.
Could not tell
Yeah.
who's drinking 20%
Yeah.
alcohol.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you just have to trust me. I had no idea. I got quite
Good
ticked
night.
off.
Yeah.
Ticked off.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I have 45 minutes now, and I'm going to go from 0 to 100 real quick to paraphrase Drake. And that's exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be more angry at Kirk, but he quickly tried to give himself a Peroni. And I can only equate it to the scene in Goonies where Chunk tries to drink from the water jug and it just squirts right into his own eye because he poured a bead of sake directly into his own eye and then stumbled backwards and passed out. So I was like, okay, well, it's essentially my own fault for multiple reasons. Never mind that I went up to Wisconsin with my mother and 2 children and had to basically, yeah. So the next thing I remember is John Laffler collects me and finds me kind of wandering. Later, somebody said, yeah, I saw you walking kind of dead-eyed around the grounds. Great. Just
There was
exactly what I want to hear.
Like a trail of people going, Daddy, where are you going?
Yeah. And then John, thankfully, says, hey, you doing all right, man? I said, no, I'm not doing all right. He says, here, come on, let's go back.
And he gives you another Peroni.
Gives me a Peroni, exactly.
You got to get all the way through.
It's a nice troublesome rinse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he sits me down, very nice. He's like, here, sit down, chill out here. Fell asleep in the chair. Somebody else wakes me up. Look, how are you doing? Okay, man? No, I'm not. You want to ride home? Yes, I do. Walked me all the way to their car. Fest was still going on. They left the fest early. Gave me a ride 20 minutes to my hotel, where then I had to explain to my mother, who was watching the kids, what had happened. And then I sat by the pool.
No, Mom, it's a Peroni.
and
It's a cool thing.
Passed
know.
out while they were playing in the pool. I have a very understanding mother who believed me. And, so thanks to Off Color for that one. For that
promo.
doozy.
So long story short, what you've been liking and enjoying recently is
Sake.
mouthfuls of sake.
Mouthfuls of sake is what I like. It's also amazing that when you're drinking in that fashion, you don't really taste what
It's
you're
just
drinking.
kind of going straight down.
Just going straight down, or you know how it is when you're drinking straight from the tap.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's me. Has anyone else want to talk about a beer that they've had lately?
I think we can file that one under every single person that's ever been to Great Tastes, story. This happens. It's like that.
It happens.
It's just like that.
It's a rite of passage, Chris.
But the thing that upset me was there's a lot of other things that happened that weekend that the last 2 times I've been, I'm just unconscious for. And that's not typically how I like to.
It's not how you operate.
It's not how I. Yeah, it's not how I like to.
Wait,
to
what
act,
happened
yeah.
last year?
No, it was like I skipped 2 years. Last year I was in Denmark with this little guy right
We
here.
had a good time.
And then the year before I couldn't go because of something. And the time before that, friend of the show, let's just say
I know
a brother of
I
yours.
know him well.
Yeah. Asked me if I was hungry, and I was like, yeah. And then I ate something, and it didn't agree with me.
When he gave you a tiny
Yeah.
centimeter by centimeter brownie.
Let's say,
You're like,
imagine
this is
like
the
if somebody
sustenance
gives
that
you a Hershey bar and you're supposed to break off one of the squares, and you just Augustus gloop it and eat the whole thing.
All 10
And then the
squares.
person looks to the person that they're with and says, "Oh my gosh, you just ate the whole thing." And then you find yourself in a field later in the night with the sun setting and your phone dying, not knowing where you are and not being able to get an Uber. You're like, I'll get an Uber, I get it. And then you look and you're like, oh, wait, I'm not by any roads.
This is
Where were your kids at that point?
worse.
Yeah, my
this
kids
is
at
not
least
my
were home.
phone. This is a mushroom that I foraged 20 minutes ago.
I mean, that's basically it. I called my
Time to
wife.
scratch out
I
here.
couldn't, it took a lot of work to call her. And I basically said my goodbyes to her.
You accidentally called your mother instead, so she
Yeah,
already
right.
was in the
She
you know,
knows. She knew.
habit of knowing that Chris is going to have a lot of excuses tonight. I'm ready for whatever's coming at me. 'cause
Yeah.
Then,
she had
then
that warning.
this loving woman lets you go to Amsterdam 2
Yeah.
years later.
Maybe you need like a buddy
That
system or
for
a
True.
chaperone.
and
true.
Colorado, like you just you're off the leash, man.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. It's true. So, Seltzer. What do you
Yeah,
want, what do you
yeah.
want to say?
Really.
Is it doing
Okay.
well? Tell us about it.
Okay, how about this? What do you guys you want to talk about? Well, what do you want to talk about, Mike? Honestly.
I don't. I need to think about seltzer. This whole show has become seltzer talk, and it's
true.
Let's talk about. Let's talk
Is
about
it what the
Mike's
fans? Is it what the
business.
20 fans
Let me
want, or
sum
what
it
do they
up.
want?
It's doing well. It's not stealing that much market share from smaller craft breweries, maybe larger ones.
So now I said, what do you want to talk about? And you've talked about nothing but seltzer since
See?
I asked you that
is
question.
how it
I'm
starts.
running it down so we can get through it, and it's selling well. Those are the three things,
And it's clear.
And none of us seem to really care what it tastes like. It tastes like what it tastes like.
And there's not a single
Nobody cares what it
seltzer
tastes like.
in that cooler right now. Not a single one.
That's right. I'm proud of us.
Not one.
There may be a couple in there.
What do you think about? So I had multiple people send me a picture, including Stephen K, who sent a photo, a listener, one of the 20, according to you, Mr. Strong.
That was me, actually.
And
That was a big season.
I've said less before.
and they're selling it for at Walgreens $1.99.
So
after a mail-in
After
rebate.
a mail-in rebate. So what do you think the overlap of White Claw drinkers and people that know where to buy stamps is?
And also people that actually go for mail-in rebates.
Right.
That's
That's a whole other level. You could-
Yeah.
like,
Well,
so one person got their $1 White Claws.
I mean, I'm sure some people bring it into the office and steal the postage from there. And the point is, to all the craft breweries who are looking to get into the seltzer game, good luck. Good luck.
I remember-
$1.99 12 packs. Good luck.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be.
Be,
There it is.
You know,
And they're
but
stacked
ours
in the
tastes
produce.
better. But ours tastes better.
Their products are stacked in the produce section, guys.
That's like
How can you
Well,
battle that?
it does have it has vitamins,
Yeah.
and it's
clear.
not just alcohol and water.
Does it have
and-
vitamins?
Like, it's chock full of vitamins. You can
Name,
get it.
name 3 vitamins that are in it.
A, B, C.
Are those actually-
Whatever's in
nailed it.
corn.
It's in Spindrift.
And-
It's not
and
real.
B12
Fruit juice.
also B12
That's a good
full
one. That's
full
a
of
really good
vitamins.
one. I'm always
Amazing.
gonna be
Hallertau
Vegetables.
Blanc hops, depending on the varietal.
Just
True.
yeah.
Or the maker.
Wait,
Without
what?
it?
Who puts Hallertau Blanc hops in there?
All truly.
I thought they're
All
just-
truly seltzers have Hallertau Blanc listed in the ingredients.
It's true.
Oh my god.
It's true. I like that it doesn't just say hops.
This is
Yeah.
definitely
It says
Fifth
the
Channel
varietal.
timeline.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be like it saying like the heirloom name of the tomato, right? I mean,
How many
Well,
heirloom
it's
tomatoes?
interesting to
Let's
be like,
name heirloom
they-
tomatoes.
They
well,
clearly-
like, come on, but that's you know what? But that's the same. That's the same thing as what most or many I would say most White Claw drinkers would say about hops. Is
Well,
us saying what name an heirloom tomato varietal?
seems
I mean,
like
I can name tomatoes because I can say
So here we are
plum,
talking about
cherry,
seltzer.
beefsteak.
Do we want to go down this road? We should just all just take a moment and
Talk
take
more.
stock of where we are. We're about to go down this road.
Is
I'm
there
happy to
anything
go down
else
this
we can
road.
talk
I'm
about?
happy.
I'll go down this road. I'm just
right.
saying.
All right, how about this?
Mike said he didn't want to go down
Well,
this road.
I
So-
got
We'll save it for later.
I got a forward, an advanced copy of Dan Pichet's new article that's going to be in Mashtown.
Yeah.
about-
That's a good
Seltzer.
It's all about seltzer. No, it's mostly about like the new style of slow growth being what should be the goal of breweries opening now or starting now, and it had a few main points which had to deal with. I'm sure he'll come on and do it much better than I do, but slow growth and how debt is going to be a more difficult thing for these breweries to take on because it's not patient capital. Then
Because it's not going to be. Well, no, yeah,
start
you're right.
paying
Yeah,
back.
it's not.
You have to start paying back your loan. Then there's a section about how he sees like clubs and like members only style groups as being a boon for breweries like this, where if they want to start a barrel program, that they would need to do this members only thing to end.
I was thinking a lot about high fidelity, like people just
movie?
coming in. Yeah, just people coming in and just being like, "I'm sorry, you can't buy that beer. You're not cool enough. You don't get that. You don't get to drink that." I think that's probably where beer nerd culture is heading eventually.
it sounds-
I'm sorry, you don't get that.
What Dan is saying sounds a lot like what Ray Daniels said maybe a year or so ago, which is it should just be the small winery model, which is exactly what they do. They have clubs,
Right.
and they charge often, I would say, insane amounts of money for. So Boston Joe, friend of the show, was with him a little while back, and he talked about how he had heard from a friend who likes good wine that there's this great winery you should try to get in on their membership list.
Screaming Eagle.
Yeah, and it's called like Coop Kake. Yeah, something like that.
You said it right. That was
Yeah.
that was good.
That was good.
Yeah, So
Really?
no,
Oh, okay.
it's Cupcake. I don't know how. Yeah.
I don't know.
And but anyway, he got into the reserve thing, like, hey, congratulations, you've made it. And then he realized what he'd won, and what he had won by winning the lottery to get into the group was the ability to buy 3 bottles of wine for $600, not including total, not including tax or shipping. So for
Yeah.
$200 a bottle, they won't throw in free shipping for you.
That's
No overhead
great
for that.
wine. though.
And he's
I
like,
mean, I
"Aren't
don't
I
know how it
lucky?
tastes, but
Aren't I lucky?"
Well, that's an extreme to which I don't really see beer ever getting. I mean, that's hilarious, and more power to wineries for convincing people that that's something
Yeah.
they should.
I
Be.
remember
To
I
his
said-
credit, Boston Joe told, he told them what they could do with that, and
Yeah.
said, no thanks, but no thanks.
Right. Well, that's like season tickets to the Bears. You know,
But the whole thing, but there
Give
are
us money
breweries
to give
who
us
are
more
doing
money so you can give us
very much the same thing in concept, if not for the same amount of dollars. They are saying, you're so lucky that you're in this rarefied air that you get to now spend a lot of money on this beer. And I mean, that's one of the tropes that like don't drink beer always jokes about, is like overpriced non-barrel aged adjunct stouts. And I would put that in the same area as these insanely overpriced boutique wine labels. It's the same thing. It's very limited. It's and But with beer, because we're
it's
having this
artificial
conversation,
scarcity
it's
for beer.
artificial. It's more artificial than the wine.
For sure. There's only
That's I think entirely subjective. You don't know about that's your perception without knowing
Of the wine or of the beer?
No.
That's not true physically.
What are
if
you
they
talking
wanted,
about
If they wanted
physically?
to make more beer, more adjunct stout, they could make more adjunct stout much more easily.
they're
than a
making as
small,
much adjunct stout as they can sell. I guarantee you.
No,
At
but
that
there
price
is a
point, and
physical
keep
limit.
the
Exactly right.
yeah
There's
right.
But there's a physical limit on the amount of space a winery has to grow grapes.
But that's definitely true. However, I mean, a lot of wineries aren't going to be limited by that. So it just depends on what the
But the ones that are charging $200 a bottle or Screaming
Yeah,
Eagle,
but here's what they
$1,000
do. So here's what Joe and I were talking about is he was kind of looking through their products and we kind of came to this conclusion or this kind of hypothesis that what they're doing is essentially taking a certain amount of their they're making a lot of very small bottlings and kind of making kind of like a wine salad to make a whole bunch of different tiny little bottlings, each one with a very small bottle count. So it's like this much is from this vineyard, that much is from that vineyard, this much is from this vineyard. That one is a late harvest. This one is, and then the rest will maybe release next year. So, or in 2 years. And then they'll do special cuvées with other, so they're just making tiny little batches with a larger quantity, so everything is always limited and they can always charge more for it. And it's, in a way, I mean, it's certainly capitalistic. I would say it's a little bit gaming the system, but hey man, like you said, Mike, more power to them if they're doing it.
These guys, it's by hook or by crook, man. Whatever
Right?
it takes to, if you want to operate a winery and you're not just doing it to just sink money into a hobby, it's you got to figure out how to make it work. And I think
And it is disposable income. It's not like this is jug wine or anything like that. This is pure disposable income for those who can afford to do it.
Well, and I would argue that those
$200
bottles of wine are worth that if that's what people are paying for them. If they're that good, I mean, honestly, if I were the sort of person that bought $200 bottles of wine and I was like, this wine is killer and it's $50. Guess what? I'm going to buy 4 bottles of instead of that $200.
Exactly.
wine.
I mean, that's my opinion, but. So if they're able to survive doing that, it's just like let them do it. And at the same time, all the breweries that are maxing out the non barrel aged adjunct stouts, it's like do that. If that's what makes sense for you, I'm all about it.
Do you see that market continuing, the non-adjunct stout,
Well,
high
look,
price point exclusive?
I think that a lot of things that have been possible are going to become less and less possible as the market matures. And certainly I think that I would make the argument that Chicago is perhaps the most mature beer market in the country. I think that a lot of these shenanigans are going to be less and less tolerated by a more knowledgeable and educated beer consumer. That's got to be the trend.
What do you think drives people going to buy that non-barrel aged adjunct stout?
Can I just put a little twist on that and take it away from non-barrel aged adjunct stouts and how long will that last?
Yeah.
What about just expanding it slightly and saying how long will the artificially scarce limited run go? Because it might go away from the non-barrel aged adjunct stouts to something else that is essentially the same thing.
So you're talking about like the presentation of a release day with like, this is how many bottles we have
for my
say,
grisette,
and your
my adjunct grisette,
Sure.
or my sour, or something like that.
but positioning it as this is a rare thing and it's valuable because it's rare, not because it's the quality of the beer
Yes.
being the center point of it.
Well, I don't think anyone's playing that. I think they're saying that these are their most special beers.
Sure, but there's
And you and maybe I and maybe other people, allegedly, are saying that these breweries maybe don't think that their highest priced beers are their finest beers, and they're not limited by the number of barrels they were able to get or something actual, the number of super special vanilla beans they were able to get. That no, but for real, like I think people may want to know that it's not limited by the amount of adjunct they were able to put in. It is limited by how much they thought they could sell. Like it is limited. Like to Will's point, but
they're also not very smart beers to brew. They're low yield, long boil times potentially,
100%.
Not cheap to make, tons of expensive potential adjuncts, if you're going to use like whatever, freeze-dried strawberry powder or whatever, you could really rack up the cost pretty quickly. So for revenue perspective,
maple
they're
syrup
not,
expensive,
yeah,
very expensive.
really good maple syrup is not cheap.
So is maple syrup extract.
Yeah. So, I mean, to do it really well and spend some money on the ingredients, it's not very smart to make. So there is some validity to the price, and that I think sort of limits also the volume that's out there.
Okay.
It's going to grow with everything, but
yeah, I mean, why are we talking? We've got the pastry king.
yeah, I'm here, guys. Let's talk.
I mean, we're basically talking about him without looking at him.
Yeah, but that's
I was
not-
looking right in his eyes the
It's
whole
true,
time.
you
I don't
were.
know what you're
But
talking
drinking
about.
a crispy lager.
I thought you were
Maybe-
flirting with him. I didn't know what was going on.
Maybe per like style of beer we're talking about. What we were talking about is a release style and like a
Totally.
a like technique of gussying up.
Well, I think that the perception is for the consumer in that case that those were not beers for drinking, and that is something that I am ultimately against. I think that people should have beer is for drinking, and that's what it should be used and purchased to do.
Well, moral oppositions aside, which I happen to agree with you on, how long can you sell beers that aren't for drinking? Like, other than just like you can't have two of them. It's like the price.
This,
one, but
unfortunately,
are they for
is
trading?
something-
Are they for cellaring?
This is well, they're I would say primarily for trading. So the main thing is this will persist as long as the market decides that that's what it's doing, and as long as there's a black market there and it's happening, people will do it.
How
It's-
long do you think that sustains, though? How many people do you know, that have a quote unquote beer cellar? And
I-
it's like, I've got 45 Black Tuesdays.
I know plenty of people that have beer.
Let's party.
And I'm one of them. Beer that I've collected over time.
I think we're
that
all
have-
one of those people.
Yeah.
But at the
Not
same
me.
time, I'm not trying to accumulate
What about
more
your
beer.
dust?
I only want to.
different.
Like
It's a
all the beer
currency.
that I have, I want to get rid of it. It's
Yeah.
beer is for drinking. I don't want to have.
It is for drinking, but it's for drinking in different ways, to be fair. And some of them are for drinking on special occasions.
Yeah.
I think what's happened is there are way too many special occasion beers. And, I mean,
What do you have against
people, but I would
occasions?
say guys especially,
pro-occasion.
they like to buy
This is the pro occasion
like
side.
fun little like toys and gizmos and
Look
stuff
what
like
I
that,
have.
and this is the same as that. Like they want to buy something cool with a little wax top that has a vintage number and a bottle number and this and that. And again, like
maybe a sticker on the label.
DDB nails it when he says, and then he, bring that bottle out to anybody else but your immediate circle of like-minded thinkers, and they look at you like you are the loser you are.
Total loser.
Yeah, which you are, and be like, oh, cool, you waited how long? Oh, that's what you did with your day, huh? I resanded my deck, but anyway, that's cool. Well done, well done. That's great. That's a great beer you got there.
That you can have 3 ounces of before you're drunk.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we should be that might be true in a stereotypical way, but before
Yeah,
we
I mean, we're
trash
joking.
all the beer nerds, I
We're
gotta
half
hope-
kidding.
Oh, come
look,
on.
look, I
We're
think
making fun of ourselves.
There is a class of people that I would say is like that, but I would say that there's got to be there. In my mind, when I think about the best case scenario, I've got to believe that there are definitely people that are drinking beers like that with their family or with their or maybe just going home and just taking the whole thing down themselves.
doming
because,
it.
Yeah, like straight to the dome, man. And I think that those are the real heroes, because if you're drinking the beer, I don't care how you're doing.
Doming pastry stouts by yourself.
That's right.
Those are
You are the
heard it
real
here
hero.
first.
Going to bed
That is
sweating.
Yeah.
This is
Willmore's
to the audience.
Willmore's definition of a hero is somebody who domes pastry stouts by themselves at home.
No, if you're going to a beer, I would just let's put this in context. If you're going to a beer release and waiting in line for a limited release beer that you then go home and drink by yourself.
You could trade
you
for a
are
fine
hero.
bottle of bourbon.
Listen,
true.
but this
Yeah.
is not. This is
You
not
could sell
about.
that bourbon.
Well, bourbon.
Wait, say this is not about what?
Huh? This is definitely not about bourbon.
No, it's definitely not about.
No,
what.
I mean
It could
bourbon
be about
is like, if we want to talk about hierarchy of whiskeys, unfortunately, just down the totem pole quite a bit.
Uh-oh.
Great
Those are
barrels.
fighting words.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Speaking of barrels,
Pretentious guy over here.
Speaking of barrels, yes. You want to talk about some BCS variants?
I mean, it was on the notes. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
follow your track.
I hear
here.
you.
I don't know.
Well done, man.
Yeah,
Nice
that
segue.
seemed like it was good right there.
So what do you think, guys? What do you think of the new BCS variants? Not maybe specifically, but the tone of the BCS variants that they're doing.
Love it.
I like it too.
Yep.
I like
I
that
have
they're
no idea
going
what's
this way.
on.
Oh,
Somebody's gonna have to catch me up.
thanks. Essentially, they are going from an adjunct focus generally to a barrel selection focus.
Love it.
Yeah.
Into it.
That's a great idea, especially because they have the capital to get whatever barrels they want.
Yeah.
I think that this is derivative, but probably a
I
good
mean,
idea.
50-50's been doing this for a while with the clips.
Yeah.
I mean, they have been.
Yeah.
Totally.
No, I mean, I agree with you, but I don't. Like 50-50 was doing a bunch of different bourbon barrels for the most part, which is fine.
Yep, no, they've done rye. They did apple. They definitely expanded. They've expanded since then. And think about how this opens things up to play this rarity game for Goose Island, because now they can do this year. It's just the barrels, right? Then it'll be which one they're going to look at Untapped. Undoubtedly, they're going to look at Untapped and see which one did the best, right? Which one got the most bottle caps? Which one got the most waxed bottle caps, right?
And then you do a double barrel with adjuncts.
Ding, 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 ding. How much you want to bet? And then they're going to do it with
Wait a minute.
different one the next year.
Are you saying that the largest beer company in the world uses data to determine their decisions about what to try to sell?
manipulate? Yeah, totally.
Why would they do that? That's crazy.
No, I think they're thinking. I think they're already on to how they're going to use this to extend the game a little more, because it was getting a little bit like adjunct salad. They were jumping the shark a little bit with how many different crazy adjuncts they were doing, but I think bringing it back to the barrel, and then they can just iterate on it, and it'll be another 4 years until they're doing super crazy double barrel, triple barrel with adjuncts and this and that, and people are just going to lose their minds because, no one's ever had the single Willet barrel with vanilla. They've only had the, Four Roses with vanilla.
And you know that the one that is the best is the one that your friend had and you didn't have.
It's true. Well, everyone knows that.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
That makes sense too, marketing wise. There's a huge, the bourbon market's just insane right now. So there's tons of people, I think more than ever, that know a lot about barrels and bourbons, and they're going to get even more geeked about those products.
Yep.
Yep.
I also would much rather see them doing this type of thing than
Just
throwing
adjuncts.
a bunch more adjuncts in there.
Why is
It's-
that?
I feel like no matter what anyone says, there's less nuance to doing the adjunct route. Like you're not going to you're not drinking BCS, you're drinking this other thing. You're drinking away from whatever their brand is. But now you're drinking BCS in these different barrels, which is kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah.
We've had a few single barrels one way or another at the brewery, and just seeing how those stouts aged, the same batches in different barrels, it is really cool. It's completely different. There can be just insanely different mouthfeels and flavors and finishes from just the oak. It's a good.
I didn't
Good
read
practice.
the article. Are they actually single barrels, or is it like this is all in Willet barrels and this is all in Heaven Hill barrels? And this
I'm
is
not
all-
sure what they're going to do.
Yes, it's that.
It's that.
Yes.
Because I think the biggest thing is still blending for anything like that. It's very rare, in my experience of tasting a lot of barrels and blending stuff, that you have a single barrel of beer that is so much better than the overall blend of a bunch of them together.
Oh yeah, they're just doing different
there's-
varietals.
I mean,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
the palate fatigue alone of that. So if you actually, that's a lot of tasting to
Sure.
get after. So,
But-
especially, man, they have so many barrels.
Could you
Well,
imagine
right.
that?
It's crazy.
There are many times at Pipeworks that I would have the idea in my head that we got these rare barrels. Like the first time at Jones Dog not the first, the second time we made Jones Dog, we had these 35-year-old Heaven Hill barrels, and I was like, well, we're going to release the 35-year-old one alone, right? And I was like, what? And then the rule was like, the made was only if it's better than the blend with the 12-year-old Elijah Craig, and it wasn't. It was much better when there was 12-year-old Elijah Craig in it.
Ooh, I had an idea. I have an idea. Sorry.
We did the same thing with Brown and Stirred, which was like we had 3 different types of. We had Willet rye barrels, we had Rittenhouse rye barrels, and then we had Dad's Hat vermouth finished rye barrels. The idea was to release them all separately and maybe do a small blend. But and it was like only if them individually is actually more interesting than the blend, and it wasn't. So the more like I taste stuff like that, the more I'm convinced blending is like the way to make a better product.
Well, they're also doing vertical packs, like 3-year vertical packs this year as well, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is going to be, give rise to them going back to multi-packs. I think they're going to go back to 4-packs personally. I thought it was a mistake to go to 500 mil single bottles, but I'm sure that they'll laugh and say, why? We made a ton of it, and then we're just going to go back to 4-packs. It's not a big deal. If they could go to somehow like a closed box pack, which they probably could, then what they can do is have single barrel gems hidden in there. So it's like Pokemon. You got to get them all.
But the only way to get the Willet one, the Willet 23-year-old that was Stitzel Weller stock, is if you buy 5 base bourbon counties.
But not even. Like, you have to open them, and then maybe 1 in 100 4-packs will have one of those bottles.
And do you think that there won't be people digging through all of these boxes, and then all of the people at Benny's have to like lock it down and have have security on
once
the
they sell that
hand
multi-pack to a Benny's, they're opening them up and selling them as individual
I
bottles.
think that you just let's be reasonable. Charge people whatever they're willing to pay for that particular bottle. Well, who cares? Like,
but I think as you can get that much money,
what?
you
Can
can
you do that legally?
What?
Can you just say, give me, for alcohol, can you say, give me as much money as whoever says the highest number, that's how much this costs?
Well, I mean,
a brewery can't. I don't think a brewery can.
I think
do that.
you can.
I don't think you can. I think you legally have to have a set price.
Right,
I
but
think.
Yeah.
We should probably know this. We're the insiders. You know?
I think you do. I think there's arcane. There's definitely obscure
well, in Chicago,
pricing laws.
You can't change the price during normal. You have to
That's
have
true.
you have to declare the price first.
Yes.
I mean, so yeah, I think that there's probably ways to get around that.
I still think
Razzles?
the old.
Raffles.
Yeah, Razzles. They're
Razzles.
very above board.
Yeah.
But I do think this, baseball card upper deck, super limited card thing inside the pack
Foil insert.
could go beer could go that way, and Goose Island is the one who would have the ability to pull that off. They'd have to have some sort of like seals on them, that tamper-proof seals, child-proof seals there. So the children at Benny's don't get in there and mess with it.
It's an interesting
It's
game
interesting
theory
just to
type thing
think.
to go to the retailer and be like, you can sell these 6-packs for this amount if you don't break them down, or you can just if you find one of these rare bottles, you have to sell it for this amount to make up for the fact.
But they're going to make more money if they don't open them. The
Right,
stores
well-
will make more money because people will want. It is a razzle. It's a razzle.
Yeah.
I'm going to have $1,000 bottle. All I have to do is buy this $35 4-pack, and just keep doing it. It's just like a razzle.
But what
For
would,
$35, I got $1,000 bottle.
what would
But
keep
it is a
but
razzle.
What would keep the retailer?
We're doing
from-
this, guys. All right, this show's never going on the air.
The
'cause we're doing
retailer
this.
obviously would be
Delete.
the person that you can't that would be difficult to include in this whole transaction.
Right? Why wouldn't
But
the retailer
basically,
break them out? And then
that's
be like,
exactly right.
I got one.
Exactly
now
right.
Now it's $3,000, and you don't have to worry about.
and now I will sell all of these other ones, and
At
it
retail
is
and
what it is. I mean, I suppose
Target's
that
going
there
to
are
have
ways
a lot of rare beers.
So many.
Well, I think that once again, beer is for drinking, and this is nonsense. That is the moral of the
So
story.
back to hard seltzer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to the most important thing. Hard
Back to
seltzer.
things that are made for drinking. There's no doubt about it. That's what hard seltzer's for, man.
Tell me.
It's for drinking.
And don't you think
Killing
that
me.
the reason that this is that this has happened is because we're not okay? We can't. We're not doing hard seltzer.
We're
right
not
now.
doing
It's
it. You know what, guys? It's it. I'm done talking about it. I don't care what anyone else has to say. That's it. I'm ready to take a break. Jamie, you've been here the whole time. Thank you for just manning the board silently like this. Is there any way, I've had enough, that you could put on some music, maybe 10 minutes, anything but from your accursed metal show that you always play music from? I'd really appreciate it if you could do that.
Some cranberries maybe or something.
And then after that, we'll come back with more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn. I am joined by my guests, the pastry king of Chicago, Mr. Tim Lang, Sir William Charles Moore, the Prince of Drinkable Beer, and of course, Mr. Strong. I don't really have a nickname for him. His name is Mike Strong, and he's here. And also Jamie, who spent, I have to say, the entire break diligently looking for the lost piece of mail, which I'm sure he's found now. I'm just, as soon as he hands it over to me, which I'm sure is coming any moment, I will read it. But until then, we have a lot of letters which you can't get to, even though one of them starts out, "Dear denizens of dust," and
Then what does it
and
say?
closes, "Yours in dust, Matt."
What's in the middle?
A lot of stuff, but it's about Seltzer, so I can't bring it up.
Well, that guy
Thank you.
doesn't love dust.
Yeah.
Just let me say, there's no one's going to keep White Claw can tabs.
No, I take it back.
Apocalypse hits.
I take it back. Okay. So, let's read a letter.
Write a letter.
From Matt, right?
Hi, Matt.
Hey, Matt. So, Matt writes, "Dear denizens of dust." A little bit of a spoiler there before. I told you I was going to start that way. Longtime listener, first time electronic letter sender. First off, I want to give thanks for making my weekend long. I did not edit this one. I sometimes edit the letters. My weekend long runs more enjoyable. The 5-minute window of beer-related discussion between switching topics back to Seltzer is truly the highlight of my
Did he
week.
put a little TM
Well
in there?
done. Yeah, he did. He put a little TM in there. Yep.
Nice.
A previous episode's discussion regarding the impact of the, quote, "back to the classics" sparked this line of thinking/question. It's assumed that the return of such styles is a response to the fatigue driven by weekly releases/collaborations that recycle the same double dry hop combos, explosive cans of fruit puree, adjunct stouts, etc. It strikes me that the middle ground of experimentation and refinement that led independent craft beer to this point is left out of the conversation. From my own perspective, much of the category's growth was sparked by the balance of innovation, tinkering, and perfecting recipes from homebrew culture. That ethos is certainly missing from the current state of the previously described hype boy styles, but is a full pendulum swing back to traditional styles the industry's answer? What would the next evolution of, quote, experimentation and refinement look like in 2019-2020? Will it be the rise of the amber ale, as Strong Mike suggests? It's actually Mike Strong, but anyway.
Dust Brother.
Yep.
I honestly don't remember saying that.
and,
Stand by it.
Matt
Yeah,
remembers.
I definitely remember as well. Hopefully, this question is directive enough to be worth answering, or at least discussing. Also, please send me a T-shirt. Consider it payment for the rights to In Seltzer's Roundtable when you rebrand to reflect your content. Yours in dust, Matt. Thank you,
Number one listener.
Matt. Yep.
Good job, Matt.
So thank you.
I
Just
think
let me know what size shirt you want. Does he say?
You
Yep.
didn't include that?
He didn't include what size.
Whoops.
So you're not going to get one.
Never mind.
Yeah.
I think you're already starting to see those types of breweries open, like breweries that are more focused on perfecting things that they really want to make versus just making things they know they can sell.
Can you give
Like
an example?
Suarez.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
like that seems to be mostly about focusing on a few things and refining them and tweaking them over time to make them as best as he possibly can. I think that seems to be what the idea of Hill Farmstead is too. I mean, not to bang that drum too much, but like the that's what that brewery was all about. That's how they got to the way that those beers taste. And I think you're seeing more of that happen. I think that's I responded to that Dan Pichet to him saying, I think we're returning to the norm of that having to be the way you run a brewery, because it's not going to be like lines like that for new breweries or new things for too long. So
I do think that Matt makes a very good point that does not get brought up enough on the show, which is
Seltzer is awesome.
that
Yeah.
seltzer is great. He says, from my own perspective, much of the category's growth was sparked by the balance of innovation, tinkering, and perfecting recipes from homebrew culture. And I absolutely agree. I think that curiosity definitely came from that kind of homebrew way, where before that it was you made a lager and that's it. And maybe if you maybe did a variant of that being a light lager, and if you didn't, you just kind of spun off a different brand, and you were a giant brewery. There were some regional breweries that had, maybe like 4 different breweries, but I mean, seasonals weren't really even a thing. So that kind of curiosity, and it has kind of reached, I hope, honestly, a tipping point with this kind of new. Then again, I don't know. I mean, I also love the idea of someone like Fantôme or someone like that who, like, every batch is always its own unique little thing. I do like that, but to me, somehow that is different than just, this one has this cereal, this one has that cereal, this one has this.
Well, that's using the process and ingredients as the marketing, which is something that I'm growing more and more frustrated with. No, it's like when you say I use this much vanilla, like it's like 9 pounds of vanilla per barrel. It's like, that's too much. Like, that's like, not that it's like for my palate, but being someone who wrote a lot of recipes and costed out beers, you reach a law of diminishing returns with that type of thing, where you don't need to use that much of something like that, or you don't need to use Captain Crunch. It's
doesn't make
it's
it
gonna
better
ferment
either.
out.
Yeah.
Like you're not trying to make the liquid better. You're just trying to have some sort of hook, and I don't think that is the future. If that is the future of craft beer, then we're all in trouble. But I don't think it is. I think you're seeing, well, I guess not, people are lining up for pastry stout still, but I think you're seeing people. When I talk to this is now anecdotal entirely, but when I talk to a lot of my friends who were casually into craft beer, if they're still into craft beer at all, they're like, oh, I go and I drink the Pilsner, or I go and I drink like a lager, or I drink like a pale ale.
Welcome to a mature beer market.
Right. It's like people that have like gotten burnt out or gotten burnt too many times of buying very expensive things that really weren't well considered products. They were just, we know we can sell this to people.
I don't think we're a fully mature beer market,
No,
because
but
I think we can still come. I think there needs to be space for other drinkable styles of beer that are well
And there
executed.
You've nailed the word.
Yeah.
It's all about drinkability. If you can't drink it, what are you supposed to do with it? I mean, I think that there's a spot for everything, but it's like, you think about wine, nobody is going and doming a bottle of Sauternes. It's like something that you have at for dessert. It's a great product. It's not meant for someone to.
It's sold in half bottles or
beer is actually meant to be something that people drink, and I think that you're going to have to at some point just cope with the fact that for the most part, beer, most of the volume is going to go to things that are drinkable. Period. And I don't think that it's not a hard rule, but I do think that that's something that a lot of people are in denial about. And I remember saying a few years ago on the podcast, like this or the radio show, that I hope whatever's next is beer, and I think that we're seeing that it might not be, but beer will be beer. And that is the end of, that's what a mature beer market looks like. It's got to be beer. Unfortunately, it's like all this other stuff that you're trying to pretend is not beer. It's not. It's beer is going to have to be beer. So That's my thought about
Well,
it.
I mean, things are becoming stratified. So I think you might have beer that isn't beer, and breweries that pride themselves on making beer that isn't beer.
Which
I know
is fine.
locally, Microphone has come on. Mike Palin from
Yeah, I've been on with
Microphone,
Mike, yeah.
and he said, I kind of came to the realization that I strive to make beers that don't taste like beer. I'm pretty sure he said it on this show.
which is fine. I do think that it's important that everyone, I especially when we're talking about adjuncts and things like that, it's just very important that people who are making beer, if you're going to adjunct a beer, make sure that you can make the base style without, make sure that you can make the base style, which means that you're still, even if you want to throw something in there to make it just to add a little bit extra, that's the sort of quality that I think is important to think about for a mature market, because I don't think that just throwing random stuff in there is going to work long term, because that's not about beer. And when you talk about all of the innovation, all of the stuff that happened to make from home brewing to make craft beer what it was, that was all beer. Like that's where this has been. That was the game that people were playing, and so you would hope that that's going to be the beer or that's going to be the game that people continue to play, because that's why we're here. And
let me ask a question of someone who's in the room who I think has excelled at making beer that tastes like. I just lost my headphones. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, you can control whether I hear my headphones or not with whether you swivel that.
I always have, Chris.
But someone who has been successful making beer that tastes like beer, and someone who has been successful at making beer that doesn't taste like beer, and that is the king right here, Mr. So Tim, in your mind, is there? So there's definitely, I would think, skill. I would imagine you would say there's skill in, obviously making these. Let's just use, either one of these super fruited beers or one of these pastry stouts, or let's go with pastry stouts because you're the
Or
king.
a Dilliner Weiss.
Yeah.
Or,
anything.
Yeah.
Let's
The
go.
classic style delivery.
Yeah,
device.
classic.
But let's go with a pastry stout. So my guess is that the base beer has probably certain guidelines that you definitely want to hit in order to be a worthy and ideal vessel for the adjunct. But my guess is you probably have a pretty wide berth. I'm guessing like when you do Chug Life, you have to hit some pretty finite things to get what you want, where you probably I'm just talking the base beer, have a wider berth for your adjunct stouts, but then the kind of skill comes in what adjuncts you use, how you apply them, and in kind of what combination. Is there any truth to that, or am I way off?
Yeah, and the higher ABV stuff obviously gets trickier as you go up, and there's different processes for that. But just a base, I think, just getting a really good refined stout that's a good palate for whatever flavors you want to go for. And there's different, obviously, roasted malts are doing different things, varieties of acrid finishes, and different things different levels, I guess, of depending on what you're going to add to it. Maybe you want something that's a little more super roasty or dark cocoa flavored to go with, let's say, a coffee, stout or something like that. So there are different things I think that are important to consider. And then, of course, what's the quality of, let's say you're adding cocoa, or, are you doing nibs, are you doing powder? What's the fat content of those things? Like, there's different things that, affect everything, pH levels. But yeah, it's, I think the more refined beers, I've said this before on the show, it's frustrating with all this rotating SKU thing going on right now. I think it obviously affects the quality of a lot of the products coming out right now. People are just trying to
perfect them.
They're doing new, and it's not a refining thing. And some of these beers, I think it does take many, many, many iterations to really refine it and get it to where it needs to be to feel super balanced and drinkable. And it's a challenge of what we do, and I think there's not enough attention to that. And I don't know if I think the market ultimately wants that. It's a lot of the most popular beers. I think something like Pliny the Elder or others are even Two Hearted. Those are very, very I think, balanced and perfectly bitter and perfectly malty and, really great fermentation.
Probably not nailed in the first 4 batches.
Yeah, but, now they are perfection. And that's just not what the market's generally doing. And it's a little frustrating. It's I wish that people were more receptive of that, I think, and just appreciating that something's been repeated and that there's maybe a purpose to that and it's not just another batch of that product, but that's not something that's
is that
fun
even
to talk about, or nobody cares.
It's not fun to talk about, but it's also maybe not what those beers are about. I mean, to Will's point, they're not as drinkable, so you can't just.
Well,
There's novelty is an element of those beers. Would you agree, Tim?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but
not to be bad, but it's
it can be very interesting and fun. That's great.
To Tim's point, I think that he's really nailed what's important is that if you really, really dial down the base beer to a point where it is 100% legitimate on its own, and then you're adjuncting as a way to accent certain flavors that are already present in it, and everything is working in unison, then you're actually doing something which, in my estimation, is completely legitimate, and that it doesn't necessarily even matter about drinkability. Like going back to my Sauternes comment, it doesn't have to be 100% drinkable all the time in all contexts in order to be something that's good. And worthy. It's like you want to have all of these things working in unison, try to hit that next level of refinement. And I think that a lot of times there's just not a lot of thought given to that. And it's exactly like Tim was saying about how are the roasted malts in this gonna interact with this cocoa. I don't want to ruin my beautiful beer. And
it's a Sauternes,
but having that level of care
Yeah.
into everything that you're doing is what it's going to take. And all of the people that are just randomly,
it's like Barefoot Moscato versus Sauternes.
Sure.
Neither of them are necessary. But there's such a delicacy to a Sauternes or like a true Moscato. Like Moscato d'Alba, like the real stuff.
Yeah.
Like those are refined, delicious wines. Then again, other people, I guess, would say that the Barefoot. I mean, probably more people would say that the Barefoot stuff's good.
There
so,
it goes. Yeah, how much?
I take back everything I said.
The thin air. I'm not hating on Moscato. It's like not that's not necessarily worse. I just happen to be like Sauternes. But
Yeah.
My point is that's the attitude that people need to take, not how are we going to sell more of this by dumping some random nonsense into our it has
at
to
a
be,
whole new level. Yeah.
Well, I think there's also
a higher level.
There's like there are tiers of adjuncts too.
No
like,
doubt.
Adjunct used to mean like flaked oats.
Right.
or corn
Right.
corn specifically.
Right.
It
But then
meant corn.
Then it was like cacao nibs and vanilla bean and that type of stuff. And then there's like a level that's like finished food products being added, which is not enhancing the brewing tradition.
I'm sorry, who are you talking about? I don't understand what you're saying.
People that are adding like Twinkies or cake that's like a
Gummy
finished,
worms.
Yeah, gummy worms. This is not what brewing is about.
I didn't know. I thought that's how you brewed. You don't
Sure.
just add
I'm
gummy
talking about
worms and
Spiteful's.
cakes?
Spiteful's Portillo
Listen.
cake stout is garbage, bro.
Listen,
Needs more
that
mayo.
Portillo. What I don't even know what cake that is. You need to give me a cake that I even know. Anyway,
Portillo's?
Entenmann's?
Do you live in Chicago?
Oh, Portillo's. I thought you said something else.
So let me
mayonnaise
ask
cake.
Let me ask a question. So I truly think there are brewers who are skilled adjunct brewers, and that they know things that someone from I don't know, like the head brewer who's been a brewer for 30 years from Deschutes may not be able to just step in and be like, oh yeah, I know how to. I can make a cupcake marshmallow stout easy. And maybe they could, maybe they couldn't. This is, again, just my guesses. So I guess there's probably a skill and as a brewer of doing that, and some of the things you elaborated on, Tim. I would also think that there's definitely a skill to kind of the base technical brewing expertise as well. And I'm guessing,
I would
do
just
those things, are they do you have to be both? My guess is you maybe don't. Like, you can be both. I mean, it's great that you're able to do a light adjunct rice or corn lager, right? And Chug Life is awesome. I think it's a great beer.
Dry hopped, of course.
Yeah, of course. But do you think that is it necessary to be a skilled, technical, classic brewer to make these adjunct beers too? Do you think it's without that knowledge you cannot do it well?
Yeah.
Your opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
yeah,
agree
I
with
think
that. I'm
I
100% second.
don't
that.
agree
Yeah.
with that.
I think that my estimation, when I think of the best adjunct beer that I've had, it's got to be Forbidden Roots, collaboration with Fernet, because they perfectly mimicked the Fernet profile. It tasted like a beer.
It was very good.
It was exceptional, and I think that Randy is honestly responsible for
Randy Mosher,
shout out. Like, this is the guy that was like, oh well, I've made all of the beers with all of the normal ingredients. I want to do something else. I think that there's a whole culture of brewers that kind of sort of took that and ran with it. I think that a lot of them missed the meeting that was like, well, actually, we need to make the base beer, and we actually need to figure out how all of these flavors interact with one another, because that's what's actually important. Because at the end of the day, it's got to be about the way that everything comes together, and I don't see a lot of breweries giving any of F's about how everything is actually playing out on the palate, and that has to be the number one thing that people are concerned about, is how does this actually taste? If it doesn't taste good, whatever you're doing is nonsense.
Well, then it comes down to who is the judge of does this taste good, right? So there's no BJCP category for s'more stout, but people sell a lot of s'more stouts, So,
Mike, you've got your own brand now. Aren't you the judge
of what?
of what tastes good? If it tastes
I'm
good,
the judge of what tastes good for me.
That's correct.
But I'm not the judge of what tastes good for
That's right.
World Beer Cup or for GABF or for what's going to sell in the market at the highest rate possible. Those are all different metrics.
But don't you have
so
to
what you
trust
see in the
yourself
pastry
first?
stout, of course, but then that's why I started the brewery I started. What you see in like the pastry stout is a moving from being like, well, you should be brewing to BJCP style guidelines. And like the logical extension of that is like, let's not do anything that has to do with any of that. And people love it. Like, people buy a lot of it. People, I don't know if they drink a lot of it. I guess that was part of the conversation earlier, but people like those flavors.
And to that point of like, what's gonna win FOBAB anymore? Like, I don't. As
Right.
these things keep changing, it's like, what's a judge's beer now?
Right.
I have no idea.
I've been in judging rooms where I tried to kick a beer out that ended up winning a gold medal in a category because I was like, I know this has extract in it. I can taste extract in this beer, and I don't think that's what this festival's about. And then someone else is like, yeah, but it tastes so perfect. And it's like, well, it was just, and then that's more about FOBAB judging, where it's like what thing wins. We're not really sure, but that beer won a gold medal in the category, and I hated it.
And we're not going to talk about that.
Hated it.
The one person that will always knock that beer out is, once again, Randy Mosher. He has no tolerance for that type of brewing, and
I don't think you should, and personally, I don't think you should. But that doesn't mean that no brewery should make beers that taste like that. Well, clearly, that beer tasted really good to a lot of very educated palates.
Yeah.
Sure, but that's what it comes down to is, what specifically in judging, sometimes it comes more to the faults, to how you delineate the faults. And I have a very interesting story.
And so now we're
so in cider, they only have one fault that they consider to be absolutely unacceptable in
Didn't
every
use
context.
apples.
It's mouse. So it's mouse.
So it's Brett.
And so no, well, it's Brett in
it's
conjunction
THN.
with
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into it. But so anyways, it's mouse, and there was a particular group of cider makers in New York that had grown to appreciate mouse. So if you didn't go in and tell them as the authoritative cider community, like, hey, listen, everything you guys are doing here is complete nonsense, and you can't like that anymore. They don't know. So that's the funny thing about judging in general is it's so much more about, in my estimation, what you exclude than what you include.
It's also about
And
people
so-
who drink Heineken because they like the skunky flavor.
But once again,
I mean,
but-
they
Or
like it.
natural wine.
But
because
once
people like
again,
these
talking
funky,
about
weird flavors.
adjuncts, but talking about
Right,
adjuncts, and I think that the most important thing should be, what is the base beer about? That's something that's clear.
true.
So that's something that's very, very clear. What is the base beer about?
I
How is
don't.
this
I
brewed?
don't think that is that clear for what those beers are, though.
Well, and
I
think
don't
that,
think that like the thing is like, well, it's a perfectly made stout that also has these adjuncts in it. It's more about like the overall flavor profile, and that the base beer of those things might not be a perfectly good beer on
Now,
its
Mike,
own.
are we talking
and nor
about?
should it have to be.
Are we talking about commercial success or Fobab right now?
Could be either.
Well, because I know in
just-
Fobab they changed it this year, and I thought it was interesting.
What did they change?
I'm sorry, this past year, not this upcoming year. And they said that with adjunct specialty, I think they call them specialty stouts,
Yeah.
that the base beer should be the primary thing that you were judging, and the adjunct should enhance the base beer. But you are judging the base beer with the
And this-
adjuncts
But
on
But what
top.
does
of
that? What
it.
does that
been
mean
the-
in
this
for
has
something like
been-
Abraxas, which no one's going to argue is that's a great beer. But is that enhancing the base beer? What is the base beer in that
I
situation?
think, no,
That's
I-
true.
I mean,
At what,
I think
like-
from
Yeah.
having
I
judged
think that that's
Fobab,
fair point.
arbitrary
a lot of times
thing to say.
It always has to do with the base beer has to be prominent, and the barrel.
cannot
and
disagree with you
The
more.
barrel, the spirit, and any adjuncts have to be secondary. And I know.
Just gave you an example where that was not the case, and that beer won a gold medal.
But then they
Yeah, well,
changed what
I-
they were trying to direct, I guess, judges, and
Right.
you came back and said, "How
So-
can you do that?"
right. Well, but
Which is
here's
it's kind of impossible.
Yeah.
No, I think generally it is true in all of the places that. Okay, well, I'm.
We're almost out of time. Is what I was trying to tell
right.
you silently.
Well-
Not you specifically need to shut up, but
Mostly
you specifically do need to shut up.
All right. Well, I've definitely shut up now.
Okay.
We're not going to talk about that.
We have like
anymore.
3 or 2 minutes or something like that. 3 minutes. So that's perfect. 1 minute for each of my guests.
But can we just say that the point is a crappy hot dog covered in pickles and Chicago style
drag
salad
through the garden.
yeah.
If it's a crappy hot dog, it's a crappy hot dog.
Guys,
no matter
what-
what you put on it.
When you
So,
get into the seltzer,
you gotta have a
guys,
decent.
Yeah.
When you get into the seltzer today,
All right.
guys,
So in
Right,
closing,
right after the show, we'll be sharing. We'll be sharing some
we're going
seltzer
to
with
be
you.
cracking some serious seltzers,
seltz.
getting to what
We're
we
gonna be
truly
crushing
love.
that
Really
seltz.
are here for.
That's how I get them here, Jamie. That's
those
how I get them
claws.
in the
Seltzer
studio.
party.
I'm sick of
Claws
these
out.
laws. Let's get those claws.
Yeah.
Mike, anything you'd like to say in closing before we get out of here? Thank you for coming on. I very much appreciate it. This is a show that almost didn't happen,
Yeah.
and it ended up being a very fun show. So thanks to everybody. Thanks, Tim, for allowing me to annoy you enough to come, and then thanks, Will, for not being a wimp and making it on tonight, even though you were worried about it.
I was scared.
Yeah. Well, anything you want to say, Mike? Anything at all?
There will be some draft of Always Zag, a hop accented saison by Iswas at Beer Temple on Saturday, either the 13th or 14th. I can't remember. But it'll
it's
be
the
on
14th.
at the beginning of the day. It will be on until it's gone.
1
All
hour.
right.
Awesome.
1 hour.
Yeah, well, if history repeats itself, but no one cares about a brewery's second beer, right?
It's over.
That sounds lovely. I'll be at Spiteful
That day, yeah.
on 20th and the 21st of September for our Oktoberfest. That's all I know
Oh,
that I'll
fun.
be doing. But if I'm free that day, it might be a nice time to have a
by.
little darts.
We
have a
can
little-
disagree
have a little
about
darts.
adjunct stouts all
Yeah,
day
let's-
long.
let's
You
yell
can
at
meet
each other.
Dusty.
beers.
We can play
Hey,
darts.
listen,
You can meet
let's-
Dusty.
Let's have some Malort shots, yell at each other
Oh,
about
Jesus.
adjunct stouts.
This sounds like my
play
ideal
darts.
day.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, what is that, a Tuesday? Great, I'm in.
It's
I'm
a
there.
Saturday.
Oh, yeah, that's even better.
Yeah.
Actually, no.
And
Saturday's
Tim,
not gonna work.
anything you want to say?
I heard there's an awesome Chugtoberfest happening at Mars Tap Room the 20th. There's going to be an awesome fest beer there featuring house malts from Ohio and really beautiful
Sweet.
fermentation.
Did you guys
It's
make
tasting awesome.
Fest
I
beer or
had some today.
American?
It was
And
fantastic.
there's going to
Like a
be
Wiesel?
it's a fest beer. It's a
fest beer.
Yeah,
A
fest beer.
So
And,
I have
there's going to be
something.
leaders if you're into leaders.
How much time we got, Jamie?
Liters of cola?
Yeah.
Okay.
if you want that.
So here's something I don't usually mention events we're gonna have, but this one I think is pretty cool. We're
There's gonna be
doing
a keg of no.
8-hearted.
Oh
Yeah.
8-hearted.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very fresh 2-hearted.
Yes.
Very fresh.
How fresh?
I forget. I'm not lying.
Still,
I
it's
forget.
still beating. Both
5
the hearts
days
are beating.
or
Yeah, it's like
14.
It's more like 14. It's not
That's
5 days.
That's fresh. That's fresh.
It might not even be that fresh, but it's very fresh. I promise.
I
I don't
don't
want
do
to lie about how fresh it is. Anyway, it's fresh, 2-hearted. They're bringing in at the last moment a firkin of 2-hearted, which is amazing
So
on
good.
cask, and it is truly
So good.
finished fermenting in the cask. It is true real
Call
ale.
that conditioned.
It is conditioned
good.
in the cask. It's not just pulled off a bright tank. And then
Are
double
you cask
2-hearted.
certified?
We're not. We are
This
not.
isn't- I guess it's
I
in
know
camera.
But
I got a guy.
I
Come
will
on.
say.
I'm telling camera.
Oh yeah, the guy,
Yeah,
the guy who
let's
set up my
continue.
the guy he set up our
Not that
program.
Guy. Not that guy. Come on.
Yeah, and we have double 2-hearted.
What about half-hearted?
I'm trying
a session coming out
like
yet?
crazy to get just even some sample cans. Apparently, that beer's not even going to be come out until next year, so it just doesn't exist
Okay,
yet.
well, I'll bring in water and we can just pour that into
yeah.
2-hearted. And it'll be
So it's going to be 8 hearts.
So you're saying they're iterating.
I'll
he's
bring
just-
some hard
he's just
seltzer.
saying-
Bring some Centennial hard.
But thank
hard
you guys.
seltzer
Saying
and we'll
party
mix it
gal.
with.
Let's just
And
call
thank
party
you,
gal.
Mike, for saying that not to talk about seltzer. It made us kind of go off the script, and
Talk
it
about
worked
beers.
out well. And
Worst-
thanks to Matt for the letter.
Great letter.
Insiders
Yeah, great
at
letter, Matt.
craftbeertemple.com.
If you have a physical letter, do not forget to
Yeah.
mail it to the beer temple.
Not-
because,
You
or
can-
somebody
yeah.
will
There's
lose
3 options.
something. I
Yes.
don't know.
Mail it to the beer
Thank
temple.
you guys. We got to get out of here. We will
Mail
see
it
you
to
next week with
Cobras
more of the Beer
Spirit, or
Temple
just throw it into
Insiders
the wind.
Roundtable. So long.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again, 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 again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again, 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 again. Remember this is what we